Well, we've been talking at some length about terminology that you will encounter, things like extensions, alterations, and substitutions. But at this point, I should also point out that in jazz, we now use extensively a Roman numeral system. So the first degree of the scale is number 1, the second degree number 2, the third degree number 3, and so on, through to the 8th degrees. Now, we refer to a chord within that scale as a 1 chord, a 4 chord, a 3 chord, a 2 chord, simply because it gives us the sound. A 1 chord is a major chord, a 2 chord is a minor chord. We achieve this by just stacking the notes above the bottom note of the scale each time, stacking up the 3 notes to form the chord. And each time we do that, the chord has a slightly different character. Number 1 chord is major, number 2 chord is minor, number 3 chord is minor, number 4 chord is major, number 5 chord is dominant 7, number 6 chord is minor, number 7th chord is half diminished. That's a minor 7 chord with a flat 5, and then number 8 is the same as number 1, an octave above. So it's apparent then that a 1 chord in one key will have the same function, the same type of sound as a 1 chord in another key. Same with the 2 chord, 3 chord, etc. So because of that, it makes it easier for us to use the chord system, chord symbol system, by reducing it to Roman numerals. So if we say a 2-5-1, now that's a very popular chord sequence in jazz. In fact, really, most of jazz music is built on tunes which contain 2-5-1s in some place. Sometimes the entire tune is made out of 2-5-1s. A 2-5-1 in one key, 2-5-1 in another key, has very much the same sort of sound. It speeds up the process for one musician to say to another one, it's a 2-5-1 in A followed by a 2-5-1 in G. Now what do we mean by that? 2-5-1 in A, so we look at the A scale, 1, 2, the second chord which is a minor, B minor, then a 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5 chord is an E7. And then of course the 1 chord is A. So a 2-5-1 in A, B minor, E7, A major. 2-5-1 in G is the same thing, a tone down. The second degree of the scale of G, A minor, the 5th degree, D7, and then 1. Now it's obviously far easier for one jazz musician to say to another, 2-5-1 in A, followed by 2-5-1 in G, rather than to say B minor, E7, A major, A minor, D7, G major. It speeds up the process, particularly when there are a lot of chords involved. There are some tunes, there's one tune in particular called Cherokee, which has a whole series of 2-5-1s. It has a 2-5-1 in B, followed by a 2-5-1 in A, followed by a 2-5-1 in G, followed by a 2-5-1 in F. We'll just hear the tune to that. 1, 2, 3, 4. So for me to tell somebody what the chords were would be far easier to say 2-5-1 in B, 2-5-1 in A. Even then it's quite a lengthy bit of information. So a 2-5-1. Now the minor of course could be subject to all sorts of treatments. So we might have a minor 9, then the 5 of course needn't just be in this case an E7. It might be an E7 with a sharp 9 or a flat 9, which we learned earlier was an alteration. So B minor 9, E7 sharp 9, and maybe a major 6, or whatever. There's lots of different treatments of colouring those chords, of giving them more interest. Now there is one difference, significant difference in a minor key. The 2 will contain a flat 5, it's a minor 7 flat 5 chord, that note in B minor. The 5th degree of the chord, so if we have a B minor we've got the root, minor 3rd as we know, and the 5th. Going right back to our chord construction, the 5th is lowered by a half step. that's a minor key. Very significant sound. You can hear the difference. That's preparing us for the minor. And a very common 5 chord to use in a 2-5-1, a minor 2-5-1, is indeed a sharp 9 or a flat 9. So if we listen to the sound, B minor 7 flat 5, E7 sharp 9, and then down to the A minor, which is of course our 1 chord, this time with a flat 9. So B minor 7 flat 5, flat 9, which is the same note, then resolving a half step. Some people actually use both. I think that's rather a nice sound for the guitar, using a sharp 9 and a flat 9. Creates movement. And listen to the difference between minor and major 2-5-1s. I play the same, a 2-5-1 in A, 2-5-1 in G, and then the 2-5-1 in A minor and the 2-5-1 in G minor. So here's the one in A. G. Now in the minor key, 2-5-1 in A minor, 2-5-1 in G minor. Now generally when we see the half diminished chord, a minor 7 flat and 5 chord, we can predict that it's going to resolve onto a 2-5-1 in the minor key. Sometimes it doesn't. There are the odd tunes. What's New is a very famous ballad that does that, where the chord, it is a minor 7 flat 5, but it goes to a major chord ultimately. But generally when you see that minor 7 flat 5, it's preparing us for a 2-5-1 in the minor key. And there are a lot of tunes that are built on that sound. Tunes like Yesterday's. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so on. Or Softly as in the Morning Sunrise. D minor. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can hear that sound going round. Which brings us to, we can put a chord in between there, which is the 6th chord, and that is another chord sequence that is essentially part of the backbone of jazz, a 1-6-2-5. So we're putting the 6 in between to give it some colour. And that applies to the major key and the minor key the same. So let's look at C, a 1-6-2-5 in C. We would have the 1 chord, which is a C, the 6th chord, which is an A minor, the 2 chord, which is a D minor, and the 5 chord, of course, which is a G. Now we've got all of those from the degrees of the scale, and we're referring to them in the sort of Roman numeral terms, because a 1-6-2-5 is a 1-6-2-5 in any key. So we'll play 1-6-2-5, a major 1-6-2-5 in C, followed by the same thing in B flat. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. And now in B flat. Okay, now you can hear from that and see from the shapes that I'm using that is essentially the same thing, moved down a tone. That particular progression, 1-6-2-5, forms the basis of a chord sequence that is referred to as a rhythm changes, because it's based on the George Gershwin tune, I've Got Rhythm. And again, there are countless blues tunes, that use that.